Story number one: we have no free will. According to the Stanford scientist by the name of Robert M. Sapolsky, we have no free will, or at least free will is extremely overrated because science. Actually, Theo, I'm gonna let you go off on this one because you seem to be very interested in this one. And I may have a different view than you had when you sent this to me. So let me know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was just fascinating. The reason you asked me before this podcast, behind the scenes, guys, before we got on the podcast, Mr. Bench is like, what's your angle here? So look, guys, we talk about everything around AI, social media a lot on this podcast. And one of the things that's always coming up is how they hijack our attention, right? So first with social media, how using dopamine hits to keep us distracted and attention on something else. And AI is just going to supercharge that, right? They're going to get more intimate in that. And so that begs up the question, are we really watching what we want to watch, or are we just being driven by the algorithms? So that's on the technology side, right?
Mhm.
This professor, he is coming from more the biological, neurological sense, where he's thinking about, hey, you know what? When you look at human biology, there's just a lot of things go along with, right? You know, how you're raised, what your biology is telling you. So you may think you want to eat that hamburger, you made that choice, but no, it was your biology that predisposed to like beef, or that smell reminded you of this the time you used to go to McDonald's with your mom,
Yeah.
brought back good memories. It's like he's saying every choice we make, we think it's something on our own volition, but no, it's backed by science and sociology of why you made that decision. So I'm
Yeah.
saying like, wow, combine that with social media, then do we really have quote unquote free will based on these type of concepts? So that's my angle.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it made more sense when you said it. And yeah, I don't know if you remember, you brought this up in college. You're talking about you were angry and pissed off at something because they were playing a song on the radio and you didn't want to hear it. You're like, "Man, I want to be brainwashed by the radio," and I was like, "Yo, calm down." And
I
then,
do did. At 20, at 19 years old, I do.
they're not gonna force me to like this song. I do not like this song, no matter how much they play it, no matter how
I
many
do
booties
not
are
like the
jiggling on the dance
A&M.
floor. I will not like it.
Just Sam, I am.
I don't know if you started bobbing your head to it and were like, "No, I will not." But I thought that was really funny. I was like, "Man, JR will not be brainwashed by this song. The real Theo Harvey keeps it real." But yeah, you're doing that since then. So no, it makes total sense to me, your angle here. It's really interesting. This is something I thought about for a while. Yeah, if you take a certain person, drop them in a certain environment with these inputs and incentives and disincentives, it's well, yeah, how much of that person is actually running things, or that was a question I had. But and of course, being computer science, that's what I was studying. I really started to see that wow, there's a whole lot of information you can boil down into just numbers and inputs and outputs and calculations. And we were studying AI on a theoretical level. Now we're seeing AI in an actual level. So what I want to know is what's out there that data scientists know that we don't know, that they're holding on to. I'm talking about like the leaders of the field that they just can't let certain stuff out and they're talking to behind closed doors and in these dark, dirty academic back rooms. And they're like, yeah, man, I think we pretty much solved this and this. We could, in fact, program this out of society completely. I'm wondering about these discussions.
I agree, man. I think tons of people discussions. I'm thinking about like Facebook, man. They have 3.03 billion monthly active users on their platform. And I think I talked about this one time. I went to LinkedIn and saw how many data scientists. It was like at least 8 pages deep, man, of data scientists that work at Facebook. So I guarantee they know within small degrees of how to influence anybody in the world to do anything. And,
Mhm.
and that is one thing that they're probably holding on to from an individual level and from a nationwide level. We saw that for our elections, right? You know, how that worked.
Yeah.
So I think that they have a lot more data that can influence us and really make determine our choices. And it's because I'm reading a book. I think I told you about this. Never Split the Difference, right? It's about how you negotiate with folks. And they really talk the author is really saying, "Hey, oh, yeah, you have to come up grad school," and they talked about this. A bad and the best alternative to a negotiated sell agreement, right? And all
Mhm.
this stuff, psychological, you put these plus and minuses on all these things and be very logical about it. He said, "F all that. It's all about that lizard brain, bruh, and what you're trying to do is try to
Yeah.
circuit that lizard brain with simple things like keep your voice upbeat. Hey, Mr. Benja, how are you doing? Even it gets
Oh,
spicy talk,
oh,
keeping your voice
nice
high
voice.
enough.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, high that but then if there's a red line that you don't wanna cross, you go into that deep DJ voice. I do not negotiate on prices.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then people, okay. And so it's like you do these little psychological hooks. And I say all to say is that we're driven more by the emotional, the id inside of human beings. And I think the data scientists and all that know that. And so that
Mhm.
does drive a lot of our decision making process more than we care to admit. We're more emotional, more driven by that brain stem that's really controlling our instant reactions as opposed to the prefrontal cortex, which we think we are. So I say all to say is I could see people having an argument that we just don't have any free will now because of so many hooks into us, biological, neurological, and societal, and now with technology. So it's did I make a decision to do a podcast with you, Mr. Bench, or was it predetermined that we're gonna start a podcast?
Yeah. It's and when people hear this, I don't want people to think predetermined as in the time variance authority from Marvel's Loki. Somebody's got a big script and they're like, ah. But if you have enough data points, if you have enough information, like we are talking, you mentioned the election. Facebook was a very good example of that. They can literally turn knobs on, okay, this has a lot of foul language in it. Let's turn the knob down on that so we don't show it as much. And then this guy has flowery language. Oh, we like flowery language. Let's turn the volume up on that. We want to see more of that in the feed. We want to see more likes. We want to share more to your friends. If you
Well,
like,
wait, before you go into that, I
mhm,
mean, TikTok literally has a button that says
oh yeah,
this content will go viral.
yeah,
So there
exactly.
you go.
So yeah, that's saying as you've got knobs that can move stuff up and down. But what if the guy who was talking and he used foul language, what if he was actually correct and the person with the flowery language was actually a big filthy liar? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, Facebook just turned the election one way when they could have turned it the proper way. And this is stuff that's happening in real time. Companies are thinking about this, marketers are thinking about this, programmers are thinking about this. The military is definitely thinking about this. What are the chances of a riot breaking out? You've got your city on the line. It's okay. We need to start adjusting these knobs to make sure that we don't put this on. The media knows this as well. Any large scale media professional will tell you that, yeah, they'll come in and limit what you can say, how you can say it, how much you can say it. That's happening. But I think my beef with this guy is he comes out with a very strong statement that says, we have no free will at all. Holding people morally responsible for their actions is wrong. To that, I say GTFOH.
But you gotta say the word in the last sentence says he envisions a world without blame or prisons, where criminals quarantine only as long as they're deemed dangerous.
No, that whole deemed dangerous, it's come on, dog. It's like I've been deemed dangerous too many times to I was walking like I got caught up with the police one time, man.
Mm.
You know how they have the what is it? Not the newsstands right next to the entrance. So I have a bottle of liquor under my arm and some snacks. I was like, hey man, it's the weekend. I'm gonna grab a little bottle of something, this and that. And I said, oh, let me pick up a newspaper while I'm at it. I was doing newspaper collages and I saw some interesting headlines. And I picked up a newspaper and put it under my arm. It looked like I was covering up the liquor.
Mm.
The security guard comes over and he says, I see what you're trying to do. And I'm like, what? Oh, no, it's right here. I'm about to go. I'm still shopping. And he's, no, you weren't. You're about to walk out with it. Who's buying the newspaper? I was like, oh God. That is right. Who is buying a newspaper, right? Are you kidding me? Why would a young black dude be buying a newspaper?
On so many levels, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I got caught up, and then the manager came out, and they said the police were on their way, but I ended up leaving before the police came because a bunch of people at the store knew me, so they were like, what are you talking about? He's here all the time. Don't worry about that."
Mm.
But anyway, it could have been a thing, right?
Yeah,
And that's what I'm talking about. So I don't know about these systems that are like, "Hey, we think this guy's gonna do wrong," or we think what what behavior has taught us is that there's always a large series of anomalies, and these anomalies are what move. We think things are gonna go in a straight line or roll down the hill a certain way, but these anomalies, these imperfections, these outer agents, they cause these changes that cause butterfly effects. And then you're like, oh, I didn't expect it to do that. That's right. No one expects us to do that. And I don't like this idea of, even if we are in a deterministic state, I don't like the idea of trying to go a world without blame or prisons and
yeah.
quarantine. So,
And this is obviously more on the liberal side, which is more open and saying, hey, we shouldn't prosecute criminals. But then if you look on the more extreme, we should absolutely quantify everybody, facial recognition software to determine that they're terrorists and they need to be out here. And there's issues with that where you have AI biases, right? And determining who these people are, if they're a criminal or not, because the data that was input into it had a larger folks who looked like me and you were deemed criminals. And so now we walk into our airport or something, dee, 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 red flag. So I would say I agree. That's not the society I want to live in. I still want to feel a society that's free will. But I do feel that there is an illusion sometimes of free will because if it was overt, people rebel. So they have to keep it covert so that we're content watching our Netflix, right? Watch playing our video games. But if it's too overt, then the scales start falling from the eyes.
man,
Revolution.
think about the crisis of mind if they started calling you out for what they really know and can guess. Magicians, I've known two magician types in my life who are really like sleight of hand kind of people, and it's a weird dark art that I don't think is very healthy. I'm just like, you know what? A lot of that, just leave it alone, bro. Just leave it alone.
Misdirection. Yeah, that misdirection.
Yeah, when you start getting into playing with literally playing into people's emotions, and then you get somebody who recognize you're playing with their emotions, but then they recognize that you see that they recognize you're playing with their emotions. It starts to get real stupid. And it's just say, bro, just calm down. Just go drink your Jägermeister or whatever, and vote independent if you have to. Do what you want. Just don't get caught up in the matrix.
Nah, man. So look, maybe we need to do a deep dive on this discussion another time. But yeah, but it leads into some of our discussions later. So hopefully we'll bring it back up.